Hello everyone. Welcome back. And today, if you can't tell by my Too Stressed to Be Blessed t-shirt that I have on, we're going to get into religious trauma, which if you guys don't know, if you haven't been watching my channel for a while, I've experienced a lot of religious trauma in my life. And so when I read early reviews and reactions to a film that came out on VOD just recently called The Starling Girl, I had to jump in and watch this movie immediately. And I'll give you some context if you haven't watched my videos before about my personal life and kind of give you a little bit of a background there as to why I was so interested in watching this movie. But I'm very excited to talking about it today. And the movie I'm going to be discussing is The Starling Girl. The Starling Girl is directed by Laurel Parmet. 17-year-old Jim Starling struggles with her place within her Christian fundamentalist community, but everything changes when her magnetic youth pastor Owen returns to their church. So, I didn't really know much about this movie before going in to watch it, other than it's a religious trauma film, and as I said, I've experienced a lot of religious trauma in my past, and I was very excited to check this movie out, and I loved this movie. I have a few problems with it, especially towards the third act, but I still think it's 100% worth the watch because of the performances, the subject matter, what the film is trying to convey to you. I think all of those things are so incredibly important. The director handles it with great nuance. She does a phenomenal job setting up this story, and I'll tell you a little bit about it today. So starters, for those of you who haven't been watching my channel for a while, I was raised in a conservative Christian household. My father was a minister. I am about the furthest person from religious that you could ever meet anymore. And I dealt with a lot of crap growing up because, you know, you hear stories all the time of people dealing with religious trauma, being in the church and the things that the church does to you. When you're a minister's kid, those things are elevated through the roof, and me and my 3 siblings all went through some of the craziest stuff in the world because you're kind of looked at through this very specific lens and told that you can't watch certain material, you can't listen to specific music, you have to conduct yourself in a very specific way because everything that you do is a reflection of God and your parent. And so throughout my youth, I saw those things, I experienced those things firsthand. I watched the manipulation in the church, the way that people treated one another, the holier than thou mentality of like, I sin less than you, which means I'm better than you. And I've experienced all those horrors and dealt with those things, and I have story after story I could go on about. But every time a movie goes to approach this material, as someone who's experienced it firsthand, I'm always interested to see how it'll play off in a film. And The Starling Girl does a very, very fantastic job at kind of showing you these things in the larger scale, like the way that they happen really in big blowouts, and even in the small moments throughout. So the film introduces us to 17-year-old Jim, played by Eliza Scanlen, who I think is a phenomenal actress, and we see her doing this dance number at the beginning of the movie. She's in her Christian dance troupe at her church, and she does this really great dance number that she has practiced really hard for. You can tell that she's very talented at it, and you know, she's getting compliments after she's done. The first little thing comes out where one of the ladies at the church says, "Oh honey, when you picked your bra out today, you can see the bra through your shirt." And I was like, here we go, starting with the little, and then it's just going to get bigger and bigger. And we're introduced to her family, and her mother is crazy. Her mother is one of those like really could cling to the Bible religious nuts, where she is wanting you to do everything for Jesus, and Jesus is watching you every single moment of your life, and you can't screw up, you can't do anything wrong, otherwise mommy and God both are coming for you. And her dad, on the other hand, he used to be in a band. He struggled with addiction. I think they say alcoholism, but it's almost implied that he dealt with drug use as well. And you can tell he's in it, but not necessarily as much as her mother. And so you have that family dynamic. Well, then at the church, they want her to start dating the minister's son, which I thought was pretty funny. But the minister has 2 sons, and one of his sons is an older guy named Owen, who just came back from a missions trip, I believe, in Puerto Rico. And he starts to get close to Jim, and the 2 of them build this relationship together where it is implied that he might feel a little bit stronger about her than just friends. He has a wife at home, and you know, he's already got this family life that he's trying to build. And so we get the relationship between these 2 people, and Jim kind of starting to question her faith, questioning why she does the things that she does, why her parents are the way that they are, and can she change her life? Can she do the things that she wants? Trying to justify those things by saying, I've prayed about it and God has told me that this is the way things should be. And the movie is just an examination of this very simple story while also looking at all the elements that religion plays into it. And like I said, I think it's handled very well. There's all these little things that pop up about like, oh, I've prayed to God and asked him if this is okay, and seeing the justification of actions by saying, well, I prayed over it and God said that it was fine. Well, anyone can say that. Any person can look at you and say, I prayed over it and God said that it was okay. And I remember when I was in the church seeing that used as a manipulation tactic over and over again. And then there's this whole thing of shame that plays a really big role in the movie. There's a kid at the beginning of the film that has to get up and talk in front of the whole church, and the kids are like joking at each other that the kid pulled up porn on his computer and the mom found it, and how he's ridiculed in front of the whole church. And they try to say that it's you're making amends to God, but it has nothing to do with that. It's so that the people in the crowd can feel holier than thou, that like, I haven't sinned recently, so I'm better than you, and I look better than you because I haven't sinned recently. And it's all like this ego trip thing where people just feel better than you because they've been a better person than you for longer. And what's so messed up about that is that's not how human beings are. We are all flawed. We all have issues. We've all screwed up in our lives, and we will continue to screw up in our lives. It's in our genetics. It's the way we're built. We can try to be the best people that we're going to be, but we're closer to animals than we give ourselves credit for. And I think that it's interesting. There's this whole thing in religion about this moral compass that you have to have based on this book written by ancient men that has been translated over and over again, that it's like, can I even trust the translations? It's a dead language. Like, it's just so interesting that people are willing to pour themselves into that and justify every single action that they make based on this book that they don't know any of the people who wrote it. And so much of it is so outdated in its verbiage. And I think that the film does a really good job of showing how the church uses that as a manipulation tactic. And then seeing this relationship between a younger girl, 17, and a much older man. I don't think it's ever implied what his age is, but I'm guessing he's in his late 20s to early 30s. And he's like, you know, using, oh, God is telling me that this is meant to be. We're supposed to be together. I feel the happiest I've been in a long time when I'm with you, and all these things. And it made me think about like when I was in the church, and I saw so many church leaders that got kicked out of their positions of power for sleeping with people in the church. And, you know, like, sex is such a taboo thing in the church, in the whole church construct. And it's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe people did that. Where you're like, really? You can't believe that people that are repressing, you know, the urge to have sex for so long would go and have sex. Like, it's just really funny to me that it's like you hold all these moral codes of conduct that you've created and that this whole organization has created for you to follow that mostly make no sense whatsoever. And I think the film covers all those. I think there are moments that it could get a little bit deeper into it, but maybe in service of the story, it doesn't necessarily have to go there. And then the biggest issue that I have with this film is in the third act. I don't feel like the film closes as strongly as it could. It kind of takes the last 15 minutes to jump all over the place to where you're like, okay, I kind of get what the director's going for, but I feel like it could have had a much stronger conclusion than it had. But I don't think that takes away from the brilliant performance that Eliza Scanlen gives in this movie. I think she's absolutely phenomenal. Every second that she's on screen, she's just so charismatic. She eats up the screen time in the best way possible. I think the cinematography in this is really good. I think the pacing in the film for an almost 2-hour runtime is handled really well. And I just really enjoyed watching this film, and it brought up a lot of stuff for me. It definitely reminded me of a lot of times when I was growing up in the church, and that's difficult memories, but I also think it's important because you've learned and you've grown from those experiences. And I think that's what this movie can do for people more than anything, is kind of be a learning tool for people out there as to how the church uses this ideology of like, oh, our religion is meant to bring people together and to build them up and to make them feel better. But in the end of the day, it's a control tactic that people use their position of power to manipulate others. And the minister character in this, it was rough to watch because he just used his seat to manipulate people, and it always leaves a sour taste in my mouth. But I 100% believe that this movie is worth checking out, and I hope you will, because it's really good. So if you've seen The Starling Girl, did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was really good. I thought the performances were great. I thought the pacing was really good, and despite the third act not being as strong as the rest of the film, I still really enjoyed it. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.